Polynesia evokes images of misty highlands and deserted beaches, of a simpler and more sensual way of life. But Polynesia is more than romantic myth. It is a real place, a vast geographic triangle in the Pacific Ocean scattered with thousands of tropical islands. The coral reefs which surround many Polynesian islands create a habitat for hundreds of fish species. The shark, as both scavenger and predator, is at the top of this food chain. To the Western world, the shark is seen as a vicious threat to man. This perception is developed through sensational media accounts, books, and feature films. Our fear of the shark borders on terror. But in other parts of the world, the shark is viewed quite differently. To the traditional cultures of Polynesia, the shark was a gift from the sea. It was always given great respect. It was often worshipped. Today, many Polynesians are embracing their traditional heritage, a heritage in which all members of the culture were dependent upon the sea, a heritage that encompasses a complex system of beliefs about the shark. These beliefs are summarized by Sergio Rapu, Director of Polynesian Studies at the Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii.
The influence of shark in the Polynesian culture is quite varied. First of all, the shark is an integral part of their natural environment. They use every aspect, every part of the shark.
The physical body of the shark was an important material source for the Polynesians. Its meat was a major source of protein. The tough skin was fashioned into leather for ceremonial drums called pahus. The teeth were carefully mounted onto wooden shafts, making deadly weapons. The shark played a major role in complex Polynesian belief systems.
The base of the ancient Polynesian religions is the cult to the ancestor. Therefore, when the shark fall into this category, the spirit of the shark would be normally a protective spirit. Even in the most remote part of Polynesia, on Easter Island, we can find evidence of the influence of shark on the life of the people. We have beautiful petroglyphs showing details of a shark, like the numbers of gill, and with the little shark being born, showing the baby shark, which indicate that they know the shark does not have an egg like other fish, but they have the full baby being born. So it portrayed to me the knowledge or the experience those ancient artists had with the shark, but the carving of shark in wood or stone or even corals that is carried on in many of the Polynesian islands is a tradition, and you can trace it back to ancient time. It was not born as a souvenir. It was born as an integral part of their art. Today, the Polynesian cultures in general do have a strong belief in the importance of the shark, not only as a resource, but also part of their mythical world.
Because my family have dealt with the ocean, for centuries, so somehow they have some superstitions or some belief that they have guardians that protect them while they are in the ocean. And to my family, for example, my father's family, they believe that shark, whether haumatua, which is like a guardian angel for them. Whenever they go fishing or diving for mother pearl shells, when sharks are around, there's no fear.
If we go out and we are in trouble, if there is any sharks among all these sharks that act differently in protecting us, then we know there's maybe my father, my grandfather, someone who's there to protect us from being killed.
The shark myths of Polynesia reflect the region's common heritage. Over 8,000 years ago, a seafaring race of people left the coasts of Southeast Asia and migrated to the farthest reaches of the Pacific Ocean. Traveling by great sailing canoes, they settled thousands of islands, bordered by Easter Island on the east, the Hawaiian Islands on the north, and New Zealand on the south. As they migrated, they carried their legends of the shark. The shark's presence is helpful, its spirit protective. Legends recount that settlers traveled from island to island on the backs of the fast-swimming creatures. Families honored sharks which frequented particular bays as their guardian spirits. In some stories, people were transformed into sharks upon entering the ocean. Traditional beliefs and traditional ways are still followed on remote Polynesian islands. Coral atolls harbor pristine lagoons warmed by the sun and sheltered from strong ocean current. The lagoons are the habitat for thousands of tropical fish. Papa Etema is a fisherman on the coral atoll of Rangiroa. He fishes the Rangiroa lagoon like his father and his father before him. Each day, Papa Etema drives his boat into the shallow coral bottoms of the lagoon. Papa Etema has built a fenced enclosure. This large structure traps the fish, which are his livelihood. Periodically, he removes debris and excessive coral growth from the trap and swims the perimeter, checking for holes in the fence. It was while checking his traps as a young man that Papa Etema confronted a gray reef shark. The shark attacked aggressively, and Papa Etema lost his right arm in the battle. The shark had been attracted by the plentiful fish in Papa Etema's trap. Despite his loss, Papa Etema, as a native Polynesian, deeply respects the shark. However, he, like all the fishermen at Rangiroa, exercise caution when they inspect their traps in the lagoon. Today's catch has been plentiful. The technology, as well as the beliefs of their ancestors, still serve the people well. Richard Johnson is a friend of Papa Etema and his family. He is also an accomplished diver and scientific expert on the sharks of Polynesia.
I'm asking if they have periodically sharks in the trap, and he says it's becoming less and less frequent to find the sharks in the trap. The shark which the locals fear the most is the tiger shark. If they encounter a tiger shark on an area, they get out of the water as rapidly as they can, and they frequently won't visit that area for several weeks. After that, the great hammerhead shark, a very big creature, will stop them from spearfishing in their presence, but otherwise they don't get out of the water or fear that shark very much. Even though it's known to attack people here in French Polynesia, we look forward to encountering them without any risk.
Richard Johnson is especially qualified to speak about the sharks of Polynesia. He has lived in the area for over 20 years.
I came to French Polynesia on a one-year shark behavior research project, which got extended year by year to 3 years. Sort of fell in love with the country and decided I want to stay here and found a way to do it. I've been here ever since.
Richard Johnson has followed the path of many who have answered the call of the sea. In so doing, he sacrificed his more formal academic career. His office now is a small wooden hut on the edge of a crystal Tahitian lagoon. He consolidated his years of shark research in a book which is found in nearly every marine biologist's library.
I wrote Sharks of Polynesia basically as a culmination of 10 years of full-time research in shark behavior. It would have been my doctoral dissertation had I returned to UCLA, where I was in a doctoral program, but I didn't. I decided to stay in French Polynesia and wrote this book instead. The reason I like French Polynesia so much is, first of all, its scenic beauty and the access to spectacular things underwater. I think I'm probably the happiest when I'm underwater, observing fish and shark behavior, and particularly filming. I look forward to any opportunity that I can go into the water with sharks, particularly filming them. They're magnificent creatures. It's interesting to see the new species, and it's something that I want to do whenever I get the opportunity. Normally when I get into the water, I don't have any fear of sharks. However, when their behavior warrants it, of course, it becomes frightening, and I can have a surge of adrenaline just like anybody else can.
Observing, much less filming, a shark feeding frenzy would propel most divers straight out of the water, but not Richard Johnson. Like the Polynesian fishermen and divers, Richard Johnson has learned about sharks through decades of direct experience.
Actually, I've documented 17 species of sharks in French Polynesia. The most common are probably the reef white-tip shark, the blackfin reef shark, and the gray reef shark. After those, there's another 2 or 3 that are semi-common: the silver-tip shark, the oceanic white-tip shark, the nurse shark.
Academic knowledge plays an important role in ensuring Richard's safety in shark-laden waters. But more important is his field experience and the wisdom developed through his understanding of Polynesian beliefs. For diving with sharks is potentially lethal, Richard must remain ever vigilant, ever wary, even as his respect for this ancient and dangerous predator grows. For now he faces a new challenge as he dives with sharks. Sharks, like other wild creatures, are wary of man. Scientists who study sharks in the field must use bait to successfully pursue their research.
Sharks are baited for many reasons, simply for attracting them so people can see them, to film them, and also to a large extent even in research applications. Basically any kind of flesh will do to attract sharks. They're most interested in things that come from the sea, fish. Moray eel is extremely good bait because it's very tough and difficult to remove from the hook. Shark actually is some of the best bait to catch sharks. Many of the larger sharks prey on smaller sharks. As a consequence, shark is good shark bait.
By baiting the sharks, marine biologists can draw them close for study and filming. Otherwise, it would be quite rare to see so many sharks gathered in one location. Scientific study of sharks is revealing new information about the impact of human activity on shark habitat and population.
Shark populations generally are very closely related to human populations. Wherever there are large populations of people, we find fewer populations of sharks. People slowly taking their toll, killing them one by one.
Sharks are still plentiful in the remote islands of Polynesia, islands where the human population is stable. But near islands where tourism and local populations are growing, sharks, like many other animals, are fighting a battle for survival. On heavily populated and visited Polynesian islands like Tahiti and the Hawaiian Islands, the demand for edible fish far exceeds the supply. Sharks caught on lines and in nets meant primarily for more popular fish are brought into the local fish auctions. They are sold to elegant restaurants and served to tourists who flock to Polynesian cities.
Shark populations are depleted around inhabited islands basically through the action of man, fishing for sharks, fishing for other animals and catching a shark and disposing of it, or actually going out and fishing for sharks for whatever reasons. But basically, wherever they come in contact with man, man is likely to kill the shark. There have been fewer sharks on the island of Tahiti, a high island with many people, and more sharks in the atolls where they have low populations of people.
The island of Rangiroa is typical of the low-lying coral atolls which are scattered throughout the South Pacific. Rangiroa is the essence of romantic dreams of Polynesia. Its aquamarine lagoon is surrounded by the deep blue of the South Pacific.
Rangiroa is the remnants of a high volcanic island. That island has sunk back into the sea, leaving the reefs around the perimeter, which have grown up to the surface and become sand coral islands. So it's a ringlet of many islands around the original perimeter with an immense lagoon and a couple of passes which fill that lagoon and empty it each day as the tide rises and lowers. Rangiroa is part of the Tumoto archipelago and is inhabited by what we call the Paumotu people. They're all part of the Polynesian race, one of the different cultures you find in the South Pacific. Rangiroa has a population of about 1,000 people, divided basically between two villages, Abatura and Taputo, about 500 each. Everybody visits Rangiroa. You'll find people from teachers and laymen coming to Polynesia and Rangiroa to some of the most celebrated people in the world. And Rangiroa is an attraction for anybody interested in the sea.
Rangiroa is a mecca for sport divers who come to explore the spectacular lagoon, the channels to the sea, and the reefs of the South Pacific. Tourists arrive from throughout the world to dive in the clear, unspoiled waters. Despite the tourism, the demand for fish has not outstripped the supply. Consequently, the waters of Rangiroa host an abundance of sharks.
Rangiroa is a good place to dive with sharks because there are fewer amounts of people, hence the populations of sharks have maintained their normal numbers. And as a consequence, we're able to get in the water with these species and approach them closely without too much problem.
With knowledge gained by years of experience, Richard begins feeding the sharks. Hand feeding can draw sharks close enough to observe behavior that is unobtainable in any other manner. It should never be practiced except by experts in shark behavior. Even then, the risk of losing a hand or an arm is high. Richard must be extremely attentive to every movement in the water. Several species of sharks have congregated in the area. Richard begins recording their behavior on film.
We take notes underwater in several different fashions. The best is with video camera. With video camera, we can observe the behavior many times. We can put it in slow motion and analyze careful details. However, on some occasion where it's simply numerical, we take slates underwater and write down the data as it occurs.
Rangiroa's atoll is like a second home to Richard Johnson. He has been observing sharks in the lagoon and channels for over 20 years.
My first introduction to the South Pacific was on a research expedition for 1 month during the month of June in 1968 with World Life Research Institute. That was a team of some 20 investigators, and two of us, myself and Dr. Donald Nelson, were the shark behavioral component of that crew. Sonic attraction was actually pioneered by Dr. Donald Nelson, my colleague, and basically we were interested in trying to find repellent or attractant sounds. We discovered that a sound which is intense enough to repel a shark at close range can attract them at greater range. However, we found that attractant sounds were quite effective. We're able to record the sounds of struggling fish in fish traps, loop that many times over to where it sounded like multitudes of fish, and those types of sounds could attract sharks in considerable quantity.
The pioneering research of the two young marine biologists proved to the scientific community that sharks were highly sensitive, responding to high-frequency signals from miles away. Richard Johnson's mentor, Dr. Donald Nelson, continues to build on the research work he began in Rangiroa.
My own experience has come from a research project at the University of Miami where the sense of hearing was the main topic. For instance, sharks very definitely can be attracted by sounds from long distances away. They have very good low-frequency hearing. Let's say the prey is a wounded fish. It's struggling, which puts out sounds. From some great distance, the shark would probably detect the sound first, come rapidly in to investigate, whereupon it would perhaps see the flashing sides of the fish. Coming in closer, it would be stimulated by the odor that's now starting to drift out. And then at very close range, you would be able to detect this electric fields around the fish and the wound and direct the final bite.
It was an idyllic life for the biologist, traveling out into the clear water each morning, then waiting for the sharks, which were attracted by the tape sounds of dying fish. Data was collected by filming and by visual observation. The sonic studies were followed by pioneering work in shark aggression behavior.
Actually, I believe myself and Dr. Nelson were one of the first to discover the fact in the field that sharks do attack for reasons other than feeding. Probably one of the best examples we can give you is a cat cornered by a dog. When it's cornered by a dog, it'll arch its back, show its teeth, and essentially try to intimidate the dog just for a moment to permit it time to escape. Well, gray reef sharks and the Galapagos shark and other sharks showing fragments of that behavior exist. These sharks are trying to, in some way, warn that you should not move further against them or they will attack, and this is totally non-feeding related. Non-feeding in the sense that only a slash wound was left, no flesh was removed, and the shark took advantage of the injured prey to flee the area rather than continuing to feed upon the injured prey as it would in a feeding circumstance.
It is possible that Polynesian fishermen and divers have always been aware of the gray reef shark's pre-attack behavior, but the observations of Richard Johnson and Donald Nelson were the first in the scientific community. Dr. Jack Randall of the Bishop Museum explains.
I first witnessed this behavior before we knew what it was all about. That is, before the study by Dr. Nelson and his student Richard Johnson. And they made the study in Eniwetok, and this is where I had my first bad experience. I was trying to get my back up to the edge of the main pass at Eniwetok, and the shark came between me and where I wanted to be and started this threat posturing, which means very highly sinuous swimming, with his pectoral fins drawn down, his back arched, and his jaws working. And I did the very worst thing I could possibly have done. I had a Hawaiian sling spear, and I shot it and hit the shark. Well, it cartwheeled sort of in the water, the spear flung out, and at that moment we had risen to about 30 feet where the anchor line was, and the shark charged the anchor line and chewed on it for a while because he just happened to be facing the anchor line instead of me at that point. And then with aggression subdued, he went on his way. Well, if he'd been facing me, I would have been chewed. The answer is, if ever a shark comes in or you move towards one and you get this threat posturing, you do nothing overt towards that shark. You move away, slowly, methodically, so on.
The ancient Polynesians knew which sharks to avoid and which were safe. Today, that traditional knowledge is being verified by scientific research. But the ancient Polynesian culture and the sharks which inhabit Polynesian waters are under attack by the advance of 20th century civilization. Our demands to pursue sport in tropical waters without fear of attack places the shark at risk. Recent shark attacks in Hawaii have raised these issues in the media, in the tourist hotels, and on the floors of the Hawaiian legislature. Richard Johnson's experience with Polynesian shark species and his empathy and respect for Polynesian tradition inspire him to visit the islands where this conflict has come to a head. In Hawaii, as he researches recent attacks, he will come face to face with the vicious and deadly tiger shark. Hawaii, like most Polynesian islands, was born of volcanoes. Politically a part of the United States, The Hawaiian Islands are geographically the northernmost tip of the Polynesian Triangle. Hawaii's tropical highlands meet the Pacific Ocean in rocky shorelines and secluded beaches. Exotic vegetation and spectacular scenery make it the most visited island chain in Polynesia. Its warm ocean beckons to those who love the water. But when so many enter the water, confrontations with sharks are inevitable. Richard Johnson visits the island of Maui, where shark and man recently collided, revealing the contradiction between the ancient and the modern. Early one recent November morning, a Maui woman left her beachside home and began snorkeling with a friend 100 yards offshore. Soon after entering the water, she was attacked and killed by a large tiger shark. State officials responded by hiring a shark bounty hunter to bait and kill the tiger. But the action created a furor amongst the native Hawaiian community. The bounty hunter was forced to quit.
And the immediate reaction to that on the part of the Hawaiian was to stop the hunting of the shark and rather to protect the shark. And I think that is a genuine cultural reaction. They believe it is the akua of their ancestor.
Hawaiians had all kind of different aumakuas, but the shark being the most strong one of the group, and it is my personal aumakua, and so that's why I felt very strongly against this.
Taputapua is actually a deity which the old Tahitians used to believe in. They used to believe that their people in their family who have died could be reincarnated in the form of a shark.
The government, after reaching a compromise with the Hawaiian protesters, hired Steve Kaiser of Sea Life Park to continue the search. With an Hawaiian crew, he caught a 15-foot tiger shark. Recently, the Hawaiian legislature has discussed reinstating a shark eradication program, but Kaiser believes that killing sharks is not the solution.
What I don't want to see is a large numbers of sharks being taken basically out of fear, that if we kill them all, well, then we're a lot safer. And I'm not too sure that's really true. We may kill a lot of sharks and find out that we're even more unsafe. We may kill sharks and find that it upsets a balance somewhere else.
Tiger sharks are predators, staying in deep waters during the day, coming into the shallows at dusk to feed on large fish, turtles, and mammals. Tiger sharks are one of the most feared of all Polynesian sharks, but much of the fear is based on misinformation. Richard Pyle of the Bishop Museum explains.
Sharks are definitely overrated for their danger. They're not nearly as dangerous as most people would think they believe. The question isn't how come we have shark attacks in Hawaii? The question is how come we don't have a lot more shark attacks in Hawaii? This is a large animal. It needs to prey. We've been competing with it for its food source. Its food source is dwindling. It's very surprising that they haven't tried to eat humans more as a source of food. And I think the fact that there aren't as many attacks as we would expect, it indicates that they are very selective about their prey items.
The belief is that sharks do not normally attack people. And if they do attack people, then they will call it nono, something that's a little bit beyond normal, extraordinary. And it normally mean that that person have committed either some mistake or some wrongdoing at some point that led the shark to become aggressive. So our view of the shark is a peaceful animal.
The native people haven't arrived at their conclusions in a scientific manner, so scientists often discount what they read about or what they hear about. But quite often, a seemingly outlandish claim by local fishermen turns out to have basis, which was unexpected.
Most sharks don't want anything to do with people. They're not waiting at the end of the pier for you to dive in so they can consume you. They've got a lot more important things to do. Most sharks' attacks are traffic accidents. It's one animal bumping into another animal, and it's a lot of mistaken identity. But a lot of times, if the sun is up and you're on a boogie board or a surfboard and your legs and arms are hanging off like that, the shark sees a silhouette Something that looks like a turtle or a fish injured. I mean, we don't swim like most fish. I mean, you know, we look like an injured fish. Person paddling on their boogie board from a shark underneath looks up and says, God, that looks like a nice juicy turtle, and goes up, takes a bite, spits the person out and goes, yuck, what was that?
Sea turtles are preferred food for large predatory sharks. Due to conservation efforts, the sea turtle population around the Hawaiian Islands is increasing. Perhaps the sharks are coming closer to shore in search of this delectable prey. Hundreds of sharp, serrated teeth enable the tiger to grind through the thick shell and leathery skin of the sea turtle.
One interesting thing about sharks is that they have many, many, many rows of teeth laying in wait, so that their teeth are continuously being replaced by new ones as they're lost during feeding events. We actually don't know as much as we would like to know about tiger sharks. What we would like to do now is learn a little bit more about their daily patterns of migration, put tags on them, sonic tracking tags, so that we can follow them to get an idea for how large an area of the ocean they occupy. Do they stay within a mile of a certain range? Do they wander all throughout the islands? These are things we just don't know.
The sharks are neat creatures. I mean, they're like little airplanes. They've got fins that create lift, and you know, they got stabilizers, and they got tail fins, and you know, they're really neat to look at. They have some behaviors that I think we don't really understand well, so there's some mystery to them. I don't think fear would be the word that I'd use for sharks. I think probably respect.
When you see it in the deep ocean, the shark appear physically like dancing, and its silhouette against the dark blue of the ocean is just spectacular. And I think that impression is stay vivid with the Polynesian, and that's why they absorb the feeling of the shark as their protectors more than the shark that attacked them.
More people are killed by honeybees in the United States than are killed worldwide by sharks. Should we remove all the honeybees? I don't think so. They serve an important role. Sharks serve an important role.
The role of some sharks in the undersea world is a mystery. In 1976, this strange creature was caught in the Pacific off the Hawaiian coast. It was given the name megamouth and was the holotype, or the first discovered, of a new species of shark. 4 other megamouths have since been caught, all of them male. One was tagged and released back into the Pacific. Perhaps data compiled from megamouth studies will help marine scientists save other sharks from destruction.
It's a great concern among researchers right now that shark populations in general are being overfished, overexploited, and are, in some cases, in grave danger. Sharks have a very, very low population turnaround, a low fecundity. They don't bounce back from severe impacts very quickly.
No one disputes the impact that long-line fishing is having on the sharks of Hawaii and other Polynesian islands. These boats patrol international waters, unrolling fishing lines and floating nets that range up to 20 miles long. Sharks, along with hundreds of other fish, are caught on thousands of hooks spaced along the lines. The shark's primary value lies in their fins, which are cut off and sold for shark fin soup. Sports fishermen in Polynesian waters have their own theories about the impact of the longline boats.
We feel that with all the long lining being done, there's less and less food out here for the sharks. So the sharks seem to be moving from the deep water into the shallows a lot more, and being they are coming in looking for food because they don't have it out there, we seem to be getting more shark attacks, and possibly this might be an answer to it, where they're losing their food on the outside.
People like sports fishermen who spend their lives in the ocean have greater intimacy with sharks. They have a more of a wisdom about sharks. Researchers know a lot about sharks. They know a lot about shark behavior and whatnot. But quite often it's the people who are out there every day who have a sort of a gut feel for sharks.
Sharks are a necessary predator we need in that ocean. They clean up the scraps. They clean up the dead fish that have died off or have been killed by other fish. There are carpet sweepers out there, and there's definitely a huge place for them in society. They've got to be, preserved.
I think we can learn from the Polynesian people in the way they deal with the shark and in general with their environment by being more sensitive to the environment and to the species that exist in that environment. Specifically, be more sensitive to the shark.
Sharks are trying to get along in life just like we are. And it's a tough life. It's a lot tougher for them than it is for us. And I think if people realize that, they'll come to maybe respect these animals and not quite fear them quite so much.
Richard Johnson's visit to Hawaii has been an education. He has seen firsthand the precarious balance between traditional Polynesian beliefs, concerns for public safety, and the preservation of an ancient predator. Richard journeys offshore in an attempt to get a first-hand glimpse of the shark which has been the touchstone for this conflict, the elusive and dangerous tiger.
I didn't put the bottom for those ones.
Stalked by fear and misunderstanding, the tiger shark, like its cousin the great white, continues to be hunted by man. Perfectly adapted for their role as predators, the tigers are violently plucked from their rightful domain by a species which does not make its home in the ocean, man. The tiger takes the bait, but will release it after a brief examination. It swims back into the deep, unaware of the furor it is creating between those intent upon its eradication and those who believe it is Taputapua, their ancient ancestor god. Richard Johnson returns to Rangiroa to bait and film the most unpredictable of shark behaviors, the feeding frenzy. Clear skies dawn in Rangiroa. The calm seas will provide excellent diving conditions. The day starts at sunrise for the local fishermen. Rangiroa's economy depends upon the sea. Whether checking the traps or escorting local divers, the fishermen of Rangiroa spend their days on the water. In recent years, dive tourism has become an important mainstay of the Rangiroa economy. Richard Johnson educates divers to overcome their fears of the shark.
What I think people should do is acquire what I call shark sense. The locals that are raised in these waters automatically develop this. As children, they swim off the wharfs, they encounter sharks. They don't consider them to be different from any other fish. They know those sharks which are dangerous and when to be afraid of them, and they have acquired innately what I call shark sense, which we who infrequently visit the sea can learn a little bit of by reading. Learn the species of sharks, a little bit about their behavior, and with a little bit of experience in confrontation, you quickly gain confidence and are no longer afraid of most sharks you'll encounter.
Escorting divers to swim with sharks requires a guide with knowledge, courage, and experience.
I think a tourist or the adventure seeker probably can't find things that are much more interesting than seeing sharks underwater. And of course, if you don't feed them, they're generally going to be just passing by you. Already exciting enough for some people. But if you want really high excitement, electric kind of dives, then you need to feed sharks. And it's safe to do with certain species when the instructor does it under controlled circumstances. And all this is based on the knowledge that we now have about sharks and a degree of predictability which we can attribute to them. So I think it's important for people that go into the water to learn a little bit about the species of sharks which are available in that part of the world, to identify them. That way you can immediately know whether it's a potentially dangerous shark or not, and to learn a little bit about their behavior.
By baiting in the channel between the Rangiroa Lagoon and the ocean, Richard is able to attract dozens of sharks for study and filming. His academic knowledge and dive experience is invaluable when swimming with such a variety of species. He knows all the sharks, their behavior, their preferred habitat, their prey.
The reef white-tip shark, once you see it, is no reason to be afraid. It's not going to bother you. The blackfin reef shark, likewise. However, in shallow water, they may be a little bit aggressive. But if you're walking, lay down. When they see your whole body, they'll realize you're much too big and they'll run off scared. The gray reef shark requires a little bit more caution. This is one of those sharks that will go into a display behavior that's not related to feeding and can indicate that they might attack you. But this is, again, a shark which is basically not a problem under normal circumstances. We swim with them all the time in large numbers with no problem.
By protecting their backs and sides against walls of coral, the divers can focus their complete attention on the sharks, which approach them from the front. A shark billy is used to push away the aggressive gray reef sharks, who seem interested in more than the bait. Dozens of sharks have arrived. They have followed the scent of the bait for miles. The divers are witness to a spectacle few will ever see, a shark feeding frenzy, induced by the smell of the bait and the aggressive impulses of the first to arrive at the feeding scene. Scores of sharks patrol the area, investigating each morsel of bait which floats in the water. The divers quit baiting. To continue to bait while the sharks are so aroused could endanger the divers. As the bait disappears, the sharks return to a less active mode, but they still methodically patrol the bait corridor, searching for fish pieces that were overlooked in the feeding frenzy. Baiting and feeding of sharks should only be done for scientific or filming purposes. Scientific research into shark biology and behavior continues. It is believed that compounds in their bodies may hold secrets to curing cancer and other diseases. The more scientists learn about sharks, the more determined they become to protect them. Often divers appear to be a mere curiosity to the sharks, who, after a cursory examination, leave the strange visitors alone. Some sharks at Rangiroa have become accustomed to the presence of divers in their midst.
Marguerite is a nickname we gave to a silver-tipped shark, which we find off the point at Taputa. She's frequently on the same location, and she's become somewhat of a tourist attraction, you might say. Actually, I don't feel uncomfortable at all about attracting Marguerite into the area. However, with any animal, after they're fed repeatedly by the same people in the same locations, they lose their innate fear of people, and they become a little bit more aggressive. She appears to be one of the older sharks in the area, and one of the more likely to get close to people, and maybe one of the more likely to one day try and see if we're not tasty as well.
Marguerite and the other silvertips which accompany her are found in the ocean outside the pass. Here the divers swim in the top 30 to 40 feet of water. Far below them, from several hundred to several thousand feet, lies the ocean floor. The silvertips eagerly attack the bait. Richard reaches out his hand to retrieve a piece of bait which dropped from the line, but quickly realizes this is not a good idea. It is through experiences such as these that Richard has come to know and respect sharks, a respect that has been shared by the people of Polynesia for centuries.
Once you get with sharks underwater, you quickly realize that it's the rare exception where a shark becomes dangerous. Most of them are much more cautious of us than we are of them, and in many cases, there's no risk whatsoever.
Richard Johnson, by taking the road less traveled, offers a lesson to us all. He has found a place in the world, Polynesia, where people still honor the ocean environment. By living in balance with the sharks, the Polynesian people offer us an alternative view of those majestic creatures and encourage us to regard them with respect, a respect which is long overdue.